They told us Okinawa would be the worst. They were right. The night before the invasion, I sat on the deck of the transport ship and wrote 3 letters. One to my mother, one to my girl back home, Marie from Sacramento, one to my brother Tommy, 16 years old, talking about enlisting when he turned 18. I told Tommy not to, told him to stay home, find a 4F reason, flat feet, bad eyesight, anything. I begged him not to follow me into this. I never mailed that letter. Tore it up and threw it in the ocean. Couldn't tell him the truth. Couldn't tell him that war isn't what they say it is. That I was 22 years old and I'd already seen things that made me want to die. That I was so terrified of what was coming that I couldn't stop shaking. Couldn't tell him that I'd probably be dead in a week anyway, so what did my advice matter? My name is Daniel Cross, Corporal, United States Marine Corps, 1st Marine Division. By April 1945, I'd already been through Guadalcanal and Peleliu. I'd seen combat, I'd seen death, I'd killed men. I thought I knew what war was. Okinawa taught me I knew nothing. I'm talking about this now, recording it, because someone should know, should understand what we felt before. Not during, not after, before. The fear we carried, the certainty that we were sailing toward our own deaths, the knowledge that most of us wouldn't come back. They don't talk about the fear. They talk about the battles, the heroism, the victories. They don't talk about the night before when you're sitting on a ship's deck wondering if you'll see tomorrow, wondering if it'll hurt, wondering if you'll scream, wondering if anyone will remember you, or if you'll just become another name on a casualty list. That's what I want to talk about. The fear, the waiting, the knowing, because that was its own kind of hell. We'd been at sea for days, thousands of us packed onto transport ships heading for Okinawa. The scuttlebutt was everywhere, rumors about what we'd face. Some said the Japanese were fortified deep, had turned the island into a fortress. Others said they'd retreated, that the invasion would be easy. Nobody believed that. We'd learned not to believe easy. Peleliu was supposed to be easy. 3 days, they said. Took 2 months, cost 10,000 casualties. I watched friends die on Peleliu, watched the island chew up our division and spit out what was left. The replacements they gave us after, green kids fresh from the States, they had no idea. Looked at us veterans like we were heroes. Didn't realize we were just the ones who got lucky. Those replacements were on the ship with me now. Kids, really. 18, 19 years old. Some of them had never been in combat. They tried to act tough, crack jokes, play cards. But you could see it in their eyes, the fear. They knew what was coming, even if they hadn't experienced it yet. You can't hide from that knowledge. There was a kid in my squad, Private Eddie Kowalski from Detroit. Baby face. Couldn't grow a proper beard yet. He kept asking me questions. What's combat like? What should I do? How do you know when to shoot? How do you stay calm? I didn't have good answers. How do you explain that combat isn't like anything else? That all the training in the world doesn't prepare you for the chaos, the noise, the terror? That you don't stay calm? You just move, because staying still means dying. Just stay close, I told him. Do what I do. Keep your head down. You'll be fine. I was lying. I had no idea if he'd be fine. Odds were he'd be dead in a week. Most replacements were. But what else could I say? Tell him the truth? Tell him he was probably going to die screaming in the mud? That wouldn't help anyone. The nights were the worst. During the day, you could stay busy, clean your rifle, check your gear, write letters, play cards, distract yourself. But at night, lying in your rack, listening to the ship's engines and the ocean, you couldn't hide from your thoughts. I'd close my eyes and see Peleliu, see Corporal Jimmy Dawson taking a bullet through the face, see Private Martinez getting hit by a mortar, his body just coming apart, See Lieutenant Hammond burning alive in a cave when the flamethrower team hit a Japanese position. I'd see all of it, and I'd know with absolute certainty that Okinawa would be worse. Had to be worse. It was bigger, more fortified, closer to Japan. The Japanese would fight harder, die harder, make us pay for every yard. And I'd be there in the middle of it, again, always again. The briefings made it worse. They tried to make them informative, professional, maps and aerial photos and intelligence reports. But all we heard was, this is going to be bad. Japanese defenders, estimated 77,000, maybe more, entrenched in fortified positions, caves, bunkers, prepared defenses. They'd had months to dig in, to prepare. They weren't going to surrender, never did. You had to kill every single one or they'd kill you. Expected casualties, high, very high. They didn't give us numbers. Probably thought we'd panic if they did. But you could read between the lines. High meant thousands, meant most of us. Meant the guy sitting next to you probably wouldn't make it. Meant you probably wouldn't make it. Okinawa was the last step before Japan itself. Everyone knew it. The Japanese knew it. They'd fight with everything they had, because losing Okinawa meant losing the war, meant we'd be landing on their homeland next. They'd fight to the last man, make us pay in blood for every inch. We'd be fighting in close terrain. Cities, villages, hills, caves. Not open beach landings, urban warfare, house to house, room to room. The worst kind of fighting. The kind where you can't see the enemy until he's shooting at you. The kind where every door might have a grenade trap. Every window might hide a sniper. Every corner might be your last. And we'd be doing this for months, not days, not weeks, months. Extended campaign, no quick victory, just grinding, brutal combat until one side broke. I sat through those briefings and felt my stomach turn to ice. This wasn't a battle. This was a meat grinder. They were feeding us into a meat grinder and hoping enough of us would survive to take the island. Sergeant Torres, career Marine, been in since before the war, survived everything. He pulled me aside after one briefing. You scared? He asked. Terrified, I said. He nodded. Good. Means you're not stupid. The ones who aren't scared, they're the ones who die first. Does it get easier? I asked. The fear? He looked at me for a long moment. No, it gets worse. Because now you know what's waiting. Guadalcanal, you didn't know. First time, you're ignorant. Now you know. You've seen it. You know what bullets do to bodies, what mortars do, what burns look like, what dying sounds like. You can't unknow that. He was right. The fear before Guadalcanal was abstract. Fear of the unknown. This was different. This was fear of the known. I knew exactly what was waiting for us. Knew what it would sound like, smell like, feel like. Knew how it would break us down day by day until we were shells. Until we were animals. Until we stopped being human and became killing machines running on instinct and terror. That's what I was afraid of. Not dying. Dying would be easy. I was afraid of what I'd become before I died. What I'd have to do. What I'd have to see. How much more of my humanity I'd lose. April 1st, 1945, Easter Sunday, L-Day, landing day. We woke at 0400. Couldn't sleep anyway. Most of us had been awake for hours, lying in our racks, staring at the ceiling, waiting. The not knowing when was almost worse than the knowing what. At least now we knew when. Today. Today we'd land. Today it would start. Breakfast was steak and eggs. They always gave you steak and eggs before an invasion. Last meal for some of us. Final feast before the slaughter. I couldn't eat. Stomach was clenched, too tight. Forced down some coffee. Needed something. Eddie Kowalski was white as a sheet. Hands shaking so bad he could barely hold his fork. He looked at me with wide, terrified eyes. I don't think I can do this, he whispered. Yes, you can, I said. You'll be fine. Another lie. But what else could I say? We didn't have a choice. We were going, ready or not, scared or not. We were Marines. This was our job. Land on that beach and fight and probably die. We got our gear, rifle, ammunition, grenades, rations, canteen, entrenching tool, medical supplies, 70 pounds of equipment. Made you slow. Made you sink if you hit the water wrong. But you needed all of it. Every piece could mean the difference between living and dying. I checked my rifle 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, kept checking it. Needed something to do with my hands. Needed to focus on something other than the fact that in a few hours I'd be landing on a hostile beach under fire. Loading onto the Higgins boats was chaos. Climbing down the cargo nets with full gear while the boat pitched in the waves below. Men slipping, falling. One guy broke his ankle hitting the boat wrong. Lucky bastard. He got to go back. Got to miss the invasion. I'd have broken my own ankle if I thought it would work. Packed into the landing craft, 40 of us crammed in tight. Could smell the fear, sweat and bile and terror. Some men were praying, some were silent, some were crying. Eddie Kowalski was shaking so hard his gear was rattling. The ramp was up. Couldn't see anything now. Just the boat's sides and the sky above. The engines roared. We started moving. Heading for the beach, heading for hell. This was it. No turning back now, no escape, no way out except through. The fear was so intense it was physical, chest tight, couldn't breathe right, heart hammering, hands numb, vision tunneling, every instinct screaming at me to run, to escape, to get out. But there was nowhere to go, trapped in a metal box heading toward a beach where men were waiting to kill me. Where bullets and shells would fill the air, where I'd have to run across open sand toward an enemy who wanted me dead. I'd done this before, Guadalcanal, Peleliu. I knew what was coming, the sound, the chaos, the death. And somehow knowing made it worse, made the fear sharper, more real, more absolute. Sergeant Torres was in the boat with us, saw me shaking, put his hand on my shoulder. "Breathe," he said. "Just breathe. You've done this before. You'll do it again." I tried to breathe. Couldn't. Felt like drowning on dry land. "When that ramp drops," he said, "you run. Don't think. Don't hesitate. Just run. You understand?" I nodded. Couldn't speak. Couldn't trust my voice. The boat hit the beach. Felt the lurch, heard the change in engine pitch. This was it. The ramp started to drop. Light flooded in as the ramp dropped. Beach ahead, water, sand. I waited for the gunfire, for the bullets, for the mortars, for hell itself. Nothing. No shots, no explosions, no screaming, just nothing. "Go, go, go!" Sergeant Torres was shouting. We ran. Poured out of the boat, onto the beach. Weapons ready. Expecting fire, expecting to die. Still nothing. I hit the beach running, soft sand under my boots, made it to the dunes, dug in, scanned for targets. The beach was empty. No Japanese, no defenders, no resistance. They'd let us land unopposed. For a moment, just one moment, I felt relief. We'd made it. We were alive. Maybe this would be easy after all. Maybe the intelligence was wrong. Maybe dash. Then I understood. They'd let us land, let us get onto the island, let us commit, get inland, away from our ships, away from support. They were waiting. Not here, somewhere else, deeper, in their fortified positions, in their caves and bunkers and prepared defenses. They were going to let us come to them. Make us fight for every yard, bleed us dry in terrain they'd prepared, in killing zones they'd set up. The invasion was easy. That was the trap. Make us think we had a chance, then grind us down, slowly, methodically, day after day after day. Eddie Kowalski was next to me, breathing hard, looking confused. "Where are they?" he asked. "Waiting. I said. "They're waiting for us." We moved inland, secured the beach, dug in, waited for orders. The first day passed without significant contact, some sniper fire, a few probes, nothing major, but we knew, all of us knew. This was the calm before the storm, the breath before the plunge, the silence before the screaming. The real battle hadn't started yet. It would start soon, and when it did, it would be everything we feared and worse, so much worse. That night I sat in a foxhole and realized the fear before the landing was nothing. That was fear of anticipation, fear of the unknown moment. Now I had a new fear, the fear of certainty, the fear of knowing that tomorrow we'd push south, tomorrow we'd hit their lines, tomorrow the killing would start in earnest, and this time it wouldn't stop. Wouldn't stop for days, for weeks, for months. The battle for Okinawa would last 82 days. I didn't know that then, couldn't have imagined it. 82 days of constant combat, of grinding horror, of death and mud and chaos. I would survive it, but Eddie Kowalski wouldn't. Sergeant Torres wouldn't. Most of my squad wouldn't. But I didn't know that yet. That night, April 1st, 1945, all I knew was fear. Pure, absolute, paralyzing fear of what was coming. I'm recording this in August 1945. The war ended 2 weeks ago. Japan surrendered. We won. Okinawa lasted 82 days, longest campaign in the Pacific, worst casualties. Over 12,000 Americans killed, 38,000 wounded. Worst combat any of us had ever seen. Everything I feared came true, and then some. The Japanese fought from caves and fortifications, made us pay for every yard, used suicide attacks, kamikaze planes, grenades strapped to bodies. They'd pretend to surrender, then detonate. They'd hide civilians in bunkers, force us to choose. They'd fight until literally everyone was dead. The terrain was impossible. Rain turned everything to mud. Shell craters filled with water. Men drowned in foxholes. The stench of death was everywhere. Couldn't escape it. Couldn't bury the dead fast enough. Bodies everywhere. Ours, theirs, civilians, just everywhere. Eddie Kowalski died on April 7th, 6 days in. We were clearing a village. He went through a door first. Grenade trap. He never had a chance. The fear in his eyes right before we landed. He was right. He knew. Somehow, he knew. Sergeant Torres lasted longer. Made it to May. Sniper got him. Clean shot through the head. Dead before he hit the ground. Career Marine. Survived everything. Died on Okinawa like so many others. By the end, my whole squad was either dead or wounded. I was one of 3 originals left. 3 out of 13. The rest were replacements. Most of those died, too. Got more replacements. They died. Got more. They died. An endless cycle of young men feeding into the grinder. I killed men on Okinawa. I don't know how many. Lost count. Stopped caring. You stop seeing them as people after a while. Stop seeing yourself as a person. You're just an animal trying to survive. Kill or be killed. That's all that matters. I became the thing I was afraid of becoming. Lost the parts of me that made me human. Lost the ability to feel, to care, to be anything other than a killing machine. And now the war is over. We won. We're going home. Heroes, they'll call us. Greatest generation. Saved the world. I don't feel like a hero. I feel empty, hollow. Like everything that mattered burned away on Okinawa and left just this shell. My mother wrote me. Said she's planning a party. Celebration. Welcome home. All the family will be there. Tommy, too. He never enlisted. Thank God. He listened to something I must have said. Somehow I saved him from this. I can't imagine that party. Can't imagine going home. Can't imagine pretending to be normal. Sitting at a dinner table, making small talk, acting like I'm still the person I was. I'm not. That person died. Died of fear on the transport ship. Died in the mud of Okinawa. Died watching Eddie Kowalski explode. Died killing men whose faces I still see when I close my eyes. They asked me to talk about the fear before Okinawa, the waiting, the knowing. The fear before was terrible. Worst thing I'd ever felt. That certainty that I was heading toward death. That paralyzing terror that made me shake. Made me unable to eat, unable to sleep, unable to think about anything except dying. But you want to know the truth? The real truth? The fear before was nothing compared to what came after. The fear before lasted days. The fear after. The fear of remembering. The fear of what I became. The fear of trying to live with what I did and what I saw. That fear is forever. I was afraid before Okinawa that I'd die. Afraid I'd be killed. Afraid I'd never see home again. I should have been afraid of surviving. Should have been afraid of coming home. Of having to live with the memories. Of having to be the person who did those things and saw those things and became that thing. Eddie Kowalski was right to be afraid. Sergeant Torres was right. Knowing what was coming made it worse. But neither of them understood the full truth. The worst fear isn't the fear of dying in combat. It's the fear of surviving, of coming home, of trying to be human again when you're not sure you still are. I survived Okinawa. My body survived. Came home without a scratch, not even wounded. Just lucky, I guess. Lucky Eddie died and I didn't. Lucky Torres died and I didn't. Lucky all those kids died and I didn't. So lucky. The fear before Okinawa, that was just the beginning. The opening act, the warm-up. The real fear started after, when I realized I'd have to live with this, carry this, remember this, forever. When I realized that the war might be over, but I'm not, will never be. Will spend the rest of my life fighting Okinawa in my head, watching Eddie die, watching Torres die, watching myself die in every way except physically. They want to know about the fear before. I wish that was the worst of it. I wish the fear had ended when the ramp dropped. It didn't. It just changed, transformed, became something worse, something permanent. I'm 22 years old. The war is over. I'm going home. I survived. And I'm more afraid now than I ever was on that transport ship, because now I know surviving isn't winning. It's just a different kind of losing. A slower kind, a longer kind, a kind that never ends. That's what I want people to know. That's what I want recorded. The fear before was hell, but the fear after, that's forever.